Hello everyone, thanks for dropping by. I have been looking through my old videos and it's been about a year since I did one about Star Wars. So that's why this week's one is about Star Wars. As you can see, there's George, who created the entire saga, and there's Bob, who lied to his face, and then when George turned, he stabbed him in the back, stood in front of the $750 million white elephant Disney has got on its hands called Galaxy's Edge, built on the ridiculous sequel trilogy, which has nothing to do with the story that George here created. Now there's been several talks about the new Star Wars movies coming on the YouTube with other commentators that do this for more than what I do, and I decided to have a look around. So I found one of the things, this, as you can see, it's Dan of Geek. It says new Star Wars movie plans may finally mean the return of the sequel trilogy era. God help us. It says Disney confirms that the new movie from Lost and Watchmen writer Damon Lindelof will continue the sequel trilogy. In other words, a further journey into wokeness, but not in the way you'd expect. Now, this was written on the 31st of October, and then it just goes on about it. The Skywalkers were never far away in the future. Luke's appearance in The Mandalorian, the Book of Boba Fett, which was trashy, I believe. Obi-Wan, even more trashy, and featured Princess Leia, which had no place. And then there's The Bad Batch and Andor, which no one is watching. And it says the spin-offs do so to close proximity to the prequel and the original trilogies. Not so. The spin-offs are leading to the sequel trilogy, which has no place in the whole Star Wars saga, fleshing out the lives of the characters before and after the events on their respective big screen adventures. It's an approach which has led Disney Plus to carve out its own post-Return of the Jedi shared universe. No, The Mandalorian is only the one which has any relevance to the original trilogy story. The Book of Boba Fett, which I believe was trash. Ahsoka, which is Jeremy's and Geeks and Gamers pin-up girl. And Skeleton Crew, I don't know about that. And Kenobi, which everybody hated. And Andor, which nobody's interested in. And then you've got the Acolyte. Now it goes down. The latter project makes you wonder why Lucasfilm is tackling something set a century even before Phantom Menace. The studio has yet to officially announce any plans to go back to the sequel trilogy era. I should hope not. Whether though a new series or a movie, and the last we heard about Rey, she was still watching Twin Suns on Tatooine. But that doesn't mean Lucasfilm isn't potentially working on a new sequel era adventures in secret. In other words, a further journey into wokeness. According to Finding Hollywood Reporter, the sequel trilogy will reportedly serve as a setting for his recently uncovered Star Wars movie. And then it goes, what she said, Kathleen Kennedy, quote, "We're moving further away beyond existing sequels as we look to our movie space. The sequel era is what we talk about in terms of where we're going with our movies. That means the sequel woke era of Star Wars is where she sees the Star Wars saga heading, and just how far from it will go. There's very much space we're concentrating on. In other words, she's going to carry on with the wokeness no matter what the fans think, and she's giving them all the middle finger." Kennedy echoed this in an interview with Total Films, saying there's no hesitancy to push past the 9 Skywalker movies. We need to create a whole new saga. That takes a lot. And then Rogue Squadron was cancelled. And would any of the central characters in the sequel trilogy even want to make a galactic comeback? And they asked at the BAFTAs in March whether Daily Ridley would like to return to Star Wars. And I'll say it again. I watched this earlier.
Also, do tell me, do you miss being Rey? Are you going to make a return to Star Wars?
I'll always be Rey.
Oh!
I'll always be Rey, she said. Well, that's always what she's going to be remembered by. She's done about 3 movies, but they're all for small independent companies and not the big major studios. I doubt she'll ever be in a big major studio with a central role again, because the last one she did for a big studio was Death on the Nile, and she was in the supporting cast. But I digress. And John Boyega, apparently he's had enough. I feel like 7 to 9 was good for me. It might have been good for you, but it wasn't good for the fans, who are the only ones which matter because they're the audience. And then casting aside, the freedom offered by post-sequel trilogy era movie would fit Lendevos' strengths as a storyteller. And don't expect to see this top secret project anytime soon. It might be a while before we see any of our sequel trilogy friends again. I don't want to see any of them again. I don't even want to see the trilogy ever again. For me, Star Wars finished at Return of the Jedi, and 7, 8 and 9 have yet to be remade, even if they have to remake it before I go and see a Star Wars movie. Now that was Den of Geek. The next one I found was Polygon. Now this was written on 7th of November, and it's essentially a small article giving a list of what's coming down the line. The Bad Batch, January 4th. Mandalorian Season 3, I've only seen the trailer. I've not seen anything of 1 or 2, and until Kathleen Kennedy's gone and her woke tribe at Lucasfilm, they're not getting a penny from me. Ahsoka, the Skeleton Crew, and then we got the movies. Rogue Squadron, that was cancelled. Acolyte, that no one's interested in. And this bugger wants to get into Star Wars to further wreck it like he's finished wrecking the MCU. And then that's the article. Another one I found was IGN, upcoming and new Star Wars movies and TV shows for this year, release dates and beyond. It's more or less a repeat of the other articles, but in more detail. Star Wars really starves of good content these days. They're not good content, it's just woke trash. They're always looking ahead for what's next. And what's next is this. Now, I've not seen anyone on the YouTube commenting about that. October 26th, that's come and gone. I don't know if that's on the cable television stations in America. I've seen nothing about it over here. I've also seen no one on YouTube talking about that coming. Nobody's really talking about The Mandalorian and all these animations. The Book of Boba Fett Season 2, I don't know if that was made. And Kevin Feige's Star Wars movie, status unknown. J.D. Dillard, Matt Owens' movie, status unknown. Rangers of the New Republic, I believe that was cancelled. Yes, it is, says. Then we got Rian Johnson's Mythical Trilogy. And then we got that one, Star Movies, and that was cancelled. So I don't know what's coming down the line. And then it just goes through what's coming. That's probably aimed at young Americans, the toddlers, to get them into the Disney Star Wars era. Good luck with that. Star Wars Visions, another animation, that's TV series Ahsoka. And then Skeleton Crew, that's another TV series, and the one no one's interested in, even though it's said to be quite good. The Star Wars The Accolade TV series. Now this would be of some interest, but you can guarantee that this has nothing whatsoever to do with the 3 novels about Lando Calrissian that dovetailed into the true canon EU storyline. That would be an absolute 100% guarantee. And then we got his movie, says Taika in development. Well, we don't know what it is. Rogue Squadron was cancelled. Untitled in development. I don't know what in development means. I can't click this on before, which incoming Star Wars series you're most excited for. I click that because it's the only one I can connect with, but hardly anybody's interested. And 48.1% of Americans that watched that were disappointed in Obi-Wan Kenobi. And that is that article. The last of the main articles I found is this. This is from Games Radar. Every new Star Wars movie and TV show confirmed so far. And it goes again. Let's see, Disney Plus, £8 a month or £80 a year. Bugger that. I might do that if she's gone, but I'm not paying £8 a month just for one TV show. There's Jake Skywalker. And there's the release dates for the, suppose, 3 next new Star Wars movies. It's anyone's guess whether they'll actually meet those dates. That must be Taika Waititi. Never heard of him. And then Mary Sue and Kylo Ren, those 2 characters shouldn't even exist. And then current Hollywood Reporter, movies intended as a standalone project can lead to more movies if it's successful. Ha! The story will reportedly take place after the events of the Rise of Skywalker, and it won't be a continuation of the Skywalker saga. The Skywalker saga 7, 8, and 9 still has to be remade. It could, however, feature some of the characters from the Star Wars sequel trilogy. Oh dear me. The earliest date it could arrive on our screens is December 2025. Can't wait. Not. And Sean Levy's Star Wars movie, those 2 look woke as hell. I have no idea who that lady is. And there's the bastard that ruined Star Wars. The Last Jedi was what did it for me. His mythical trilogy. Vanity Fair reports that the trilogy is on the back burner. Ryan has been unbelievably busy with Knives Out, blah, blah, blah. Considering the new fresh The Last Jedi felt, how fresh The Last Jedi felt, we couldn't be more excited to see Johnson let loose in the Star Wars galaxy. And then he wants to carry on the destructing game that bastard started. Then the cancelled Star Wars movies. Now, this movie I had hopes for. Having read all Stick's novels about his life story, I thought they would be reasonably following the storyline, but no. The only thing which was true was the card game where he won the Millennium Falcon, but the rest of it was just complete trash and ridiculous and had nothing to do with his entire life story, starting with the Paradise Snare. And then the Bad Batch, Mandalorian Series 2, and then animation, Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew, Acolyte, which nobody's interested in, and this, I noticed this, a droid story, epic journey introduced to a new hero guided by legendary R2-D2 and C-3PO. Well, Kenny Baker sadly no longer with us, and Anthony Daniels, he's getting on in years, so I wouldn't hold out much hope for that. And Lando again, as I commentated before, and that's our article. Now those are the main articles I found for this video. I also watch other videos about Star Wars, and this is a good channel, especially this one. It was Thinking Critically. I'll naturally put the links below. This guy works in the Hollywood movie industry, and he has insider knowledge, and as you can see, it says Kathleen Kennedy terrified to make new Star Wars movies. Now the article they're talking about, to save you looking for it, is this. It's the direct. Now this was written on the 31st of October, which is the same day, if I can get back to the top, this one, Den of Geek. Get rid of that. And movie plans may finally mean the return of the sequel trilogy era. That's. But they say Lucasfilm is so worried about Star Wars' next movie. Now it goes on about how awful the trilogy was after the Return of the Jedi, and Lucasfilm internal mantra for new movies is getting it right, an attitude formed after the sequel trilogy's development and production. The company internally acknowledges that the sequels were rushed to meet aggressive release dates. Now for that, you can blame Bob here and his sidekick Kathleen Kennedy. The resulting trilogy was something Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy elected to play safe, choosing fan service and franchise management over creative swings. In other words, crappy storytelling. Many of the creative choices baffled Star Wars fans, and Kennedy herself has come to dislike her decisions. Well then, she should have changed them then. And it says, a contributing factor in Lucasfilm's slow-moving development process is Kennedy's recognition that the next installment needs to actually be good. Finally, she probably got the idea that wokeness isn't going to sell movie tickets and get bums on seats. It's become a juggling act, though. The movie needs to be different from the Disney Plus stuff. Yes, Star Wars is made for the big screen, not the TV screen, but also somewhat the same. There's an understanding that Lucasfilm needs to steer the franchise away from fan service. What do they mean by that, I wonder? You tell me. And most important, the next film is rooted with what fans love about Star Wars. Well, what we love is good storytelling with characters that we can follow and get into, not woke ideology and intersexual feminism. And the need for high quality can't be overstated. Kennedy is looking to usher in a new era of Star Wars, but Lucasfilm's fear comes from having to be bold and outdo itself. And then its new approach, I clicked that on earlier, as if you bring it up, it's about J.J. Abrams, how he made such a pig's ear of the trilogy. And Lucasfilm had dealt a bad hand in mandated annual releases by Bob Iger. Again, there's the bugger which ruined Star Wars, but he decided to bail and let Kathleen Kennedy and Bob Chapek, Captain Bob, take the can. Kennedy and Lucasfilm and blah blah blah. Disney want bloody hell! That startled me then. I hate these bloody adverts in these websites. Where was I now? Stop my train of thought. Disney wanted an immediate return on its investment, and the sequel trilogy was made as a means of printing money. Well, the box office, after the story got worse, and the box office got worse, so that went out the window. And it just goes down about it, and it finishes off, Lucasfilm is right to be worried. Star Wars fans are loyal, but they won't tolerate mediocrity and cancellations forever. Film development remains a disaster, I'll say, though recent changes to the hierarchy could mark the beginning of a true change. Does that mean moving away from wokeness? You tell me. Kennedy can dig herself out of her hole if she's willing to put faith in young creative minds driven to follow what George Lucas has done. But the time for indecision has passed. Lucasfilm needs to make a commitment, which is where this comes in. He gives a pretty good detail of what's going on in the background of Lucasfilm and that, as he has insider knowledge. Come on. Mouse is playing up. But Lucasfilm is worried about the Star Wars next movie, and rightly so. Right, I think we're well over the 10-minute mark now, so I'll finish it off here. I might carry this on next week if I find some more information to make it a double, and then I'll go back into MGTOW related articles, which is the mainstream of this channel. But for now, you know, the routine people that like, comment, thumbs up, thumbs down, all the usual stuff. It's completely up to you. So until next Monday, that's it for this one. Bye-bye.